we've come to a time where we see athletes, I think, as machines of constant output, as opposed to people, humans also experiencing the human condition for the first time, just like the rest of us, and acknowledging that breaks are and rest is allowed, welcomed, earned by existence, not by sweat, blood, and tears.
Sports taught you how to compete, how to lead, how to push past limits when no one was watching. But what happens when the season ends, when the uniform comes off and the identity shifts? Welcome to the Beyond Her Game podcast. I'm Tori Barker, former Division I softball player and founder of Beyond Her Game. Athletes are trained to pursue excellence and lead under pressure, but no one prepares us for life when the game changes. This podcast is for female athletes building what comes next. We talk about business, brand, money, mindset, and identity beyond sports. The things no one teaches you in the locker room. Because the skills you built through sports don't disappear. They're just the beginning. Welcome to Beyond Her Game. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on the podcast. I am super excited to introduce you to my guest, Tara Wells. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. How about yourself? How's
I'm
it going for
doing
you?
great. I love these conversations and I can't wait to share with our listeners because I always say it's like eavesdropping on a conversation, right? You and I get to
Oh,
have
yeah.
this wonderful conversation and then everyone else just benefits from listening in. So, for the listeners who may be meeting you for the first time, how would you describe the work that you do and why is it so important right now for athletes?
So, my work, I'm an LCSW. I'm a licensed clinical social worker based in South Florida. And I know people have their thoughts about social work or some stereotypes. I'm well aware of them. My role, my job, my work is mental health treatment and also mental health outcome prevention,
Mm,
specifically for athletes. That's the population I elevate. That's the population I love working with. Give me an ego and some competition, and I am in there. So I do one-to-one work, workshops, I work with teams, I work with individual athletes on improving their mental health. So for a lot of people, that means mental performance. For some people, it means getting into their anxiety symptoms, or
yeah.
maybe they've experienced some trauma. I'm also trauma informed. So um yeah, a lot of my work just revolves around highlighting athlete specific mental health, which sometimes is unique to them and sometimes is just with the lens of having to perform, practice, rehearse your sport too. And
Yeah.
where this comes in as being so important for the conversation now is there's we've come to a time where we see athletes, I think, as machines of constant output, as opposed to people, humans also experiencing the human condition for the first time, just like the rest of us, and acknowledging that breaks are and rest is allowed, welcomed, earned by existence, not by sweat, blood, and tears, and kind of just helping that health promotion. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. And what I think is so important about the work that you do around mental health for athletes is it's not just current athletes,
Mhm.
it's former athletes too, right? Because
Oh,
there's a lot of people who are in this space, myself included and yourself, right? Who are former athletes and have, competed or continue to compete, recreationally or whatever it might be, but we still have those needs because of what was instilled in us in the sport and the athletics that we either grew up playing or have been competitive in for a number of years. So the mental health is not just for the current athlete. Really want to emphasize that because it's something that's going to be prevalent or important no matter what stage you are in that
yeah.
game, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah, identity, if identity is the name of the game, being an athlete, I'm someone who believes once an athlete, always an athlete. There is definitely a gain that we've had by experiencing sport and
Yeah.
participating it and then staying connected to it. And that identity piece doesn't leave just because you don't show up to practice anymore.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
100%.
I love to talk about the dreaded R word, retirement, early in my I'm talking to 14-year-olds about retirement and what that
Oh my
means
gosh.
because I'm disappointed we don't really get a good education on what that means to retire and still be you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting you say that because I think, I look back at my childhood career in athletics, if you call it that, I guess. From the age of 5 until I was in college, I played a sport, and never once did anyone tell me that you have to really think about what it's going to be like for that transition. Now, granted, obviously I knew I was going to stop playing at some point in my life,
Mhm.
but it's not something that you think about. And then it's not something that you think is going to be so hard and so
Yeah.
difficult. And I think, this business that I'm building beyond her game is this is one of the cornerstones is the
Mhm.
identity shift. And what I love about what you do too is part of that, like I've seen in some of your marketing and stuff like that, you talk about like being the person like in tandem almost. Like I don't know exactly how you say it, but like you are who you are, not just the athlete, right? That
Yeah.
carries on throughout your life. So I'd love for you to talk about like how you're working with athletes now about understanding truly who they are and how the sport fits into that versus the latter, right? How they fit into the sport. You know what I mean? Like because they're two tandem things. Like they're aligned at the same time, if you will.
Yeah. All the time, we are all of our identities. There's no real way for us to separate being an athlete, being a student, being a mother, brother. Like, there's no way for us to separate those. We are them all the time.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of in certain environments, in certain situations, one identity might be more relevant. Like right
Right.
now, my profession is one of the more relevant pieces of my identity. But Lord help me if my profession is always like this front and forward. Like there's so many other pieces to me and they all get to shine. They all get a moment. But like in my week, there may be a specific piece of me that gets to be enjoyed or participated in more often. So all of these things happen cohesively. It's just kind of knowing where the spotlight is and knowing that you're not separate people when you're an athlete, non-athlete,
Yeah.
playing, not playing, retired, not retired. It's these are the pieces of you and they flow. It's not supposed to feel jagged. It's not supposed to feel like I have to really code switch or try that hard to switch from one to another.
Yeah.
It's you're on it's why some people love having a drive between being in their office and being home because it's like this real tangible way to convert from one hat to the other, one
Yeah.
identity to the other. It's same thing is
Yeah.
maybe you need to find what your version of a commute is from athlete to something other than athlete.
Yeah.
Which you already were, but you might need that reminder, something to actually give you that peace.
Yeah. One of the things we were talking about before we hit record was how so much of what you do as an athlete translates, carries over, continues on in your adulthood into your
Mm,
career. And I think what is so important about bringing light to that is really helping these young athletes to understand that they're building core values, they're building disciplines and all of this stuff, but that's not just specific to sports because that is going to be something that you apply as an adult, as a parent, as a employee, whatever it might be, a business owner. And so really having the conversations around taking this skill and applying it to the next career or transition in your life. Because I think that's a lot of the conversation too, like that I've had with some of these college athletes who are like, I've been in college for 4 years playing softball. I haven't had time to work, so I don't have any work experience. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have so much experience that is
mhm.
going to propel you probably even further than your counterparts because of this determination, this, strict schedule that you've had to follow. Everything that
Oh,
comes
yeah.
from that is going to apply so much more into your career and your next phase. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, if you'd love to pipe in.
I have strong thoughts on that. Let me tell you.
Let me hear it, girl.
It's not a secret that corporations and employers love hiring athletes. It's any college job fair, like, there that's it's let me put it realistic, that's dollar signs to them. Like, that's
Yeah,
you've got someone who has this natural work ethic because of the structure you just spoke to, the
yeah,
discipline of showing up and waking up for those 5:30 lifts that, none of
yep.
us are grateful for, but it leads to strength. It
Yep,
leads to, like, a really powerful sense of self with work ethic, with discipline, with teamwork if you're working in teams. Um, but yeah, you don't have to be working behind a till or sitting at someone's desk learning how to spreadsheet for the first time to say that you have work experience. No, you have real life experience that translates beyond what a line on a CV or on a resume could be. So,
yep.
especially if you're talking about playing a sport since you were in single digits and just emerging out of diapers, yeah, I say the word career very intentionally when I work with my kids. I mean, and adults for sure. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, so you've been in your softball career for 6 years," and they look at me usually a little funny. I was like, "You are working on your CV right now. Like,
Yes.
this is a big part of you. This is what you work towards, and because you go to practice to get new outcomes, to
Mm,
refine skills, weaknesses turning into strengths, or at least turning into something you can work with, right? So these things translate directly into the
yeah,
workforce or into not just the workforce. Let me not capitalize on that, but being a parent,
yep.
wrangling toddlers, like yeah, you've dribbled a ball, you know how to handle some toddlers. You'll be
Yeah,
fine.
you got this. Well, and I wanna touch a little bit more on the mental health side of things because I think that's something that, is not touched on or spoken about a lot, or
Mhm.
enough, I should say. Because I feel like there's a lot of, like, behind the scenes struggles that these athletes have, and I'm sure in the work that you do, you hear a lot of that, like, feeling like they have to be performing, for the stage, if you will, whether it's a field, a court, a stage,
Mhm.
literally, whatever it is. And then when they're quiet or alone, they have self doubt. They have, these moments of like not feeling good enough or not feeling, great about who they are. I'd love for you to talk about maybe even ways, what you see in the mental health space, or ways that you have coached people to, really hone in on being aware of their mental health and how
Mhm.
important that is.
Yeah, mental wellness in the sports space is a really delicate field of play. Not and I wasn't even trying to make a pun there, but it's delicate. It's imbalanced in terms of how it's actually taken care of because there's a lot of chatter about mental health in sport and lots of good information and lots of fluffy information online about
Yeah,
what that actually means because sports is still seen as a really glamorous place to be and perform in, right?
yeah,
But just like you said, when the curtain closes, when the last whistle is blown, then what?
yep,
Or even right before before, the puck
yeah,
drop, like, what's happening? So, there's a lot of really good ways that people can take care of their mental health. I take a very personalized approach, that's why I do all my one-to-one work, but there are some foundational bits that seem to work pretty well across sports, across disciplines, across ages, and my number one is social.
mm,
Especially if you're in a team sport or you're in a sport where you have access to fellow athletes, getting to your social, getting to that teamwork piece of it, that teammate piece of it, being a good teammate is something I love talking about. Um, and making that equally as important as your skill set on the field or in the pitch on your sport. It's
yeah,
you have this natural like energy source, almost like a fountain of youth, which is being social. We are social creatures by
yeah,
nature. And when we deny ourselves that, we find reduced mental health outcomes. We find negative health outcomes. I had a professor when I was in Michigan as an undergrad, Dr. Chris Peterson. He's one of the fathers of positive psychology, which is the absence of mental health. It's the study of the absence of mental health because all of my other courses were really into some interesting cases, but they were all presentations, excuse me, of mental health cases.
yeah,
His quote, I literally have it tattooed on my body, is "Other people matter."
Oh, I
It
love
is
that.
a foundational force, me too. So,
Oh,
that's my big one. You have this natural resource, playing on a sport, being in a team, and it doesn't have to be peers, coaches are also part of your people,
yeah.
they're part of your
Yeah.
village. Um, Other parents, supporters, whoever is there if you're on the younger side, if you're an adult, you've got lots and lots of social resources there,
Yeah.
um, within your sport, people who get it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then other things, I am a big mindfulness junkie. It's my jam. Every single athlete that sees me gets a spiel on progressive muscle relaxation, which is like a body scan
Oh, I
where you
love it.
stress or tense certain muscle groups and then fully relax them. Oh,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. I love it. I love guiding through that. And then if you're working with me, I also love doing visualization, but stuff you can do on your own. Another one I can put people on homework with is a nostalgic playlist. Like,
Ooh.
picking a time in your life where things were good. Like, at least majority of the time, you were like, "I was on fire, I had good friends, I was feeling really good in whatever my goals were, my day-to-day felt really smooth, things were happening for me."
Yeah.
Go look up that era and pick your songs, like, what you were jamming out to in the car, in your room, like, and make a nostalgia playlist, and it's supposed to be mood boosting. I do that in workshops all the time. It's so rich, and if you do that in a group, I love doing that as, like, a team building activity,
Yeah.
and then people kinda tell on themselves, and they're like, "Here's my top 3,"
Yeah.
and you're just, like, getting such beautiful insight into your
Mm.
own brain and, like, the way that music taps into us, it's the coolest thing.
Well, it's almost like, a walk-up song, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
like your
Mhm.
walk-up song, but it's your playlist. I
Mhm.
love that, and it's funny you say that because I was literally driving the other day, and this song came on, and it triggered a memory of like, "Oh my gosh, I remember I used to work out to this song." And it
Mhm.
was like my hype song when I was working out, and I was like, "Gosh, I remember this song." And it was like, that kind of adrenaline kick came in, and so it's funny, to think about that because that could be such a mental boost. Like
Oh, yeah.
literally in the car, it just popped in my head, and I'm like thinking about, okay, yeah, if we built this playlist of like 10 songs, whatever it is, like imagine the impact that that would have. So I love that. That's a great suggestion.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you think so. Yeah, there's some, like, weird gems where I'm like, "I did like that song." It is not something I would put on today, but it takes me to, like, thinking of me driving in my car in high school down a specific road. Like,
Yeah.
what taps into that better
Yeah.
than what I was listening to when that happened? It's the
How
coolest.
funny. Well, one of the other pieces I wanted to touch on too that you're talking about is surrounding yourself, like the teammate aspect of it. And I think really that for me comes down to community, right? Like if you think about it from like the bigger perspective, like we have to build our team, we have to build our community. And I think as these young athletes going from college in graduating into the adult workforce or adulthood, whatever you want to call it, I think that's potentially one challenge that they have. I know for myself is, feeling like I lost my team, right? Like every day we would work out together or we would see each other, multiple times a day. So I think, like you said, for the mental aspect of it, really finding that core group of friends or, mentors or like-minded people, so that you can continue that community beyond, one sport and transition for the other. I think it's so important. Underutilized, very important.
Agreed, yeah. Like I
Yeah.
said, natural resource right there. It's your initiative to tap into it and remember who these people are to you.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about mental health and performance and teammates and transition and identity. Are there any other aspects in your career and your business that you see are really prevalent right now that need to be brought to light?
Um, yes, I was recently speaking at an event about imposter syndrome, and we're at a really interesting point with talking about imposter syndrome and who we are and who we aren't,
Mm,
and focusing on if you focus on who you are not, you're gonna start to feel deficient. You're gonna
Mm.
feel like there's not enough. But if you remember all that you are, then you're likely to live up to that.
Yeah.
So, there's, like, this inner dialogue I really like talking to people about of, be careful what you say to yourself because 'cause you're always listening, that
Mhm.
philosophy. And even when you think it's some passive thought or a rude thought you have about yourself or your body or your skill set or whatever's going on, you're listening to that, and that
Yeah.
becomes a version of truth,
Yeah.
and that can have really, like, snowball effect, right?
Yeah. And
Like a little seed that gets
subconsciously,
planted.
right?
Mhm.
Subconsciously over and over in your head. Imagine, yeah. One of the things, sorry, I just wanted to cut in because I was thinking about this as you said that. Somebody had walked me through an exercise where you look at like a picture of yourself as a young
Oh,
child and any negative thoughts or that imposter syndrome, like whatever it might be, if you speak that to your younger version, like, would you say that to your younger self, right?
mhm.
Like they put that into perspective. And if you if you would never say that to the child you, why would you say that to the adult you or the current you? So sorry,
Right.
I had just had to touch on that because that really made me think of it.
No, that's such a good example. I mean, that's such a tangible, good example of what you would or would not say to yourself. I say the same thing with, "Would you say that to your best friend?"
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "Yeah, of course not." I'm like, "Okay, so when did you stop being a friend of yourself? Like, what
Yeah.
happened there?" And, no one, myself included, no one wants to admit that we're rude to ourselves, but of course
Right.
we are. We're Can I cuss?
Yes.
What if I cuss? I'm an asshole to myself. I'm the rudest person. Like, who do I think I am? But also, like, clearly, I've started a business. I do this stuff. Like, I think I'm a little bit of the shit. Like, I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but I almost feel bad saying that out loud because how boastful, I'm
Yeah.
an athlete. I have an ego. It's fine. I'm also a Leo and an only child. Like, I would say cut
You've
me
got
some slack.
multiple
Most people
challenges.
can hardly do it. So, yeah, the amount of effort it takes for me to be nice to myself is offensive. Like, it shouldn't be that hard, and the earlier we can hone in those skills, the better we'll all be. We'll
Yeah.
be better friends because of it. It's not just about ourselves and how that can be better for us. It works in so many different ways.
Yeah. I think the key there is understanding that you're you're I'm not you, but you're not the only one who's an asshole to yourself, right? Like we're
Right.
all assholes to ourselves. Like
Yeah.
and you think about it when you're sitting there, telling yourself these nasty thoughts or having these, thoughts about yourself that are not positive. It's like, gosh, I feel like, oh gosh, why am I talking to myself like that? Well, we all do, right? It's
Yeah,
just a
we all
matter of
do.
how we manage it, how we
Mhm,
recognize it and change the dialogue. And, for anyone who's listening to this who may be
mhm.
younger than this me, right? Like even as an adult, we have things that we need to work on and listen to. So
Mhm.
as a 20-year-old, teens, whatever it might be, just know that if you recognize it sooner, you're going to be so much ahead of the game
Oh,
when you
yeah.
get to your 30s, 40s, whatever it might
Mhm.
be. It's just a matter of, like you said, like recognizing it, shifting the language, and really understanding that you don't need to talk to yourself that way because it's
Yeah.
not relevant. It's just like the imposter in your head who you've got to be like, no, you're wrong. That's not me, that sort of thing.
I'm just coming like, in my own life, I'm just coming around to actually liking a lot more of myself. I would be a force if I learned that skill so much sooner.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we
That's why
deserve
we're
that.
Yeah, that's why we're here talking to
Mhm.
these younger women say, "Get it together, girl. Let's go."
And you got it. You can. You don't have to
Yeah.
learn that much. Just
No.
try to say something a little less negative today. You
Yep.
don't have to be flowers and rainbows all the time. Things suck sometimes.
Yep.
Totally fine. And the reason we make changes, we go to practice or we work out is
Yep.
because we want something better for ourselves, not because the version of us today doesn't deserve something.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Tara, it's been amazing talking to
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do, or just, be in your space?
Oh, yeah, ask me all the questions, connect, I love it. I have a .com. My website is finishlinemindset.com if anyone wants to learn more about the services that I do and how that all comes together. And then that also comes with an Instagram that's got a lot of goodies on there. It's my Instagram is also Finish Line Mindset. I manage both my website and my own account. So if you DM or use my contact form there, those will be the best ways to get in touch with me. And I'd love to hear from people that listen to this episode. I love stuff like that. So please reach
Awesome.
out, ask the questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for being a guest. It's been so fun talking to you. I feel like we could go on and on and on. But yeah, I just appreciate having you here today.
Likewise, Tori, thank you so much for hosting the space.